welcome into another Stories of Grace. It is Missions Month here at Grace Baptist, and so we wanted to take some time to share one of our personal stories with one of our members at Grace, Anthony Jarrett. So Anthony, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to Grace? Maybe a little bit of your testimony before we begin.
Sure. We moved into the area in 2016, and we started coming to Grace in 2017.
Okay.
We came to Vacation Bible School with our kids, and we enjoyed it, and we just never left after that. And so we became members soon thereafter, and we've just been faithfully attending ever since.
Oh, very cool. So it is Missions Month at Grace, and you're a part of a missions organization. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're a part of?
Sure. I'm a part of a ministry called Cru Military. And many people know of Campus Crusade for Christ. And Campus Crusade for Christ was started by Bill Bright back in 1951. Mm-hmm. And he also had a burden for military. So he started another ministry called Cru Military in 1956. So the ministry has been around for a while. And the primary focus of the ministry is to evangelize and disciple men and women that serve in the United States Armed Forces.
Okay. So how did you get connected with Cru then?
What I did is, personally, salvation in the military rings very close to my heart because I served as a United States Marine and I became a Christian while serving the country. I found Christ as my personal Savior while serving in Okinawa, Japan. And while I was serving, soon after I got saved, I started to hold Bible studies in the barracks and that type thing. And I didn't know any better. I was saved, and I just wanted everybody else to know that as well. And I tried to share the gospel with as many Marines as I possibly could, during that time, even though I was a young Marine. But I didn't know that there was a structured ministry, that could actually help, the men and women in uniform to grow in their faith and to get into a situation where they could actually serve God faithfully. And when we moved into the area, being so close to military bases and Camp LeJeune and so forth, God laid it on my heart to really start to work with the military. And so I was looking around trying to find a ministry. I found several different parachurch ministries that had some level of outreach to the military. But then I came across Cru Military, and it just really rang close to my heart. And I found out that they were doing a lot of what I had personally been doing without the structured format. And I got to know the ministry. I found out that the ministry had been around since 1956, yeah. Which was really encouraging to know that it wasn't just a fly-by-night type ministry. Yeah. So that was really encouraging to me. But then I started to get involved as just a volunteer, and just go in Bible studies and to the worship services and things like that and just help with some of the things that we were doing. And I wanted to do more than that. So I became a affiliate staff member with Cru Military. And basically all that means is I'm a bivocational missionary. Yeah. So I put as much time as I can, outside of my full-time job into evangelizing, teaching, and training Marines the Bible.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think the things that you brought up of just how getting connected with the ministry that resonates with you. There's so many different facets of ministry where it's like, oh, it has to look this way or it has to be a certain thing. And it's like, well, if I'm not comfortable speaking in large groups of people or different things like that. And so we can really kind of get stuck in this mindset of, well, that's somebody else's ministry. That's something, and, there's a lot of different opportunities out there, and I think especially within the community of Wilmington and Hampstead, and just like you said with all the bases, and just North Carolina, just such a huge thing. So absolutely, and I think the other aspect of that is, just like you said, of having that support of like an established ministry, but by the same token, like you didn't really wait for that either, right? That came along after the fact, but just getting out and doing something is really key there. So you just kind of said Bible studies and things like that you started, and then Cru kind of had some more established things. So what are some specific things that Cru does with the military?
Okay, more specifically what we do, because there is such a large military population in North Carolina. Right now, North Carolina has the third largest military population in the United States. So it is, a decent population to go after.
Yeah.
And there's a cluster of bases over in the Jacksonville area. A lot of people know about Camp LeJeune, but there's New River Air Station, there's Cherry Point, which is not too terribly far away.
Yeah.
And there's Camp Geiger and Camp Devil Dog. And when you add all of those up, over in the Onslow County area, the population is about 200,000. But when you start to factor in those that are associated with the military, either military family members, active duty military, reservists, retirees, it covers about 140,000 of that 200,000.
Yeah.
That are actually has some contact with military.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people there to work with.
Sure.
And we've got a lot of different ministry outreaches with Crew. Not only do we evangelize and disciple and try to build, the men and women up in their faith of getting to know Christ better, but we also have couples counseling. We have what we call deployment counseling, where we can actually reach out and assist, young couples that are recently married, and then all of a sudden the husband's taken out of the picture for 6 to 8 months to be sent overseas on deployment. We want to be a strength and a help and a support, to those young families so that they can stay together. So we provide levels of support through counseling and Bible studies, and try to build them up spiritually so that they can make it through that type of a situation.
Yeah.
And we also have Bible studies in the barracks, that we do, and worship services.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name.
Primarily, it's just teaching the Bible every opportunity that we get. When we can get together and worship, we do. We provide any level of support possible, to the chaplains, the military chaplains that are there, because a lot of times they'll ask us to come in and volunteer and help them to do some outreach programs as well. So we try to do all of that. We provide free Bibles, to any of the military members that may need Bibles. We have all kinds of books to help them to grow in their faith as well, that we can give them for free. And we can put on Bible conferences as well, in the area. And we partner with other ministries in the area, that can provide some level of, I guess you could say, entertainment. Good entertainment, for these young men and women, so that they don't have to get pulled out into some of the things that are out there outside of the gate that may not be good for their spiritual health. So we partner with some of those ministries as well, so that we can give these young men and women some things to do in their free time, that is going to be good fellowship and a good environment for them to continue to grow in fellowship and learn to meet other Christians as well.
Yeah, so just with the nature of the military, I know, some, there can be certain stereotypes or different thought process that people have about the military, but do you feel like with the military there is a receptiveness just because of the nature of what they do to the gospel, or how do you find how most people approach the gospel within the military?
Well, that's an interesting question, because it's a very unique ministry in the sense that we get to meet a lot of these young men and women whenever they first enter the military, and their hearts are very receptive at that point, because most of them are away from home for the first time, and then they get pulled into this military environment where they don't know anybody, and it's very stressful and very demanding, and the military schedule within itself, can be extremely difficult. And these young men and women, they find themselves a lot of times feeling like they can't make it. They have nowhere to turn, and whenever we pull them into an environment that they're away from the instructors, they're away from, a lot of the other pressures that are in the barracks and so forth, and we pull them into an environment where the Holy Spirit can tap on their heart, a lot of times they're just so receptive. And Crew, let me just mention this about Crew. Crew is at every basic training location in the United States. We've got 42 different locations that we're at across the United States, and we're in 34 countries as well, teaching other military forces outside of the United States. But currently, Crew has a little over 700, close to 800. It's like 780 some
Okay.
volunteers. Staff members.
Yeah.
Sorry, staff members that actually work within Crew to help bring a lot of these programs to pass, in these various locations across the country. And right now we've got about 1,200 volunteers across the country that actually come in and help us at these various programs that we do. And the actual military population is extremely receptive to what we're doing because we're in so many different locations. We kind of follow their military career. We start out, we meet them at basic training, and we start presenting the gospel and trying to disciple them. And then they'll come to a duty station like Camp LeJeune, which there's opportunities for them to be trained in their military occupational specialty over there. And so they're there for several months as well, and then they meet Crew again. So then we get to build upon what they heard in basic training and just continue to disciple them even more. And then we try to pull them out into small groups when we get an opportunity and continue to disciple them. And then whenever they go to their permanent duty station after their initial training, then they'll meet Crew again because we're there. And a lot of times they'll get the opportunity to, have the on-base Bible studies or have the small groups, and we just continue to disciple them, build them up, and point them toward local churches, within the proximity of the base that they can join and have an opportunity to serve God.
Yeah, so just kind of through all that, and I hate to phrase it this way, but honestly I can't think of a better word. What's some successes you've seen with the Crew ministry? And that's not a great word because it seems like to quantify it and like, well, you're only successful if you hit X. But just what are some positive things that you've really seen, maybe a story that's come from your experience with Crew?
Okay, there's a lot of positives. Whenever we, like a typical Sunday morning worship, time, whenever we are able to do it, we start out at about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And we go in and we do 3 different services.
Okay.
So usually by the time 10:30 rolls around on a Sunday morning, we've already done 3 worship services in 3 different locations on 3 bases.
Yeah.
And between those 3 different locations that we go to, we will typically see 12 to 1,500 Marines that'll come and worship with us.
Wow.
And we get to present the gospel to them.
Yeah.
And we try to give them a proverb each Sunday, and we actually take time and we'll actually teach them one proverb each Sunday, and then we'll go into an evangelistic type of a message and give them an opportunity to respond, and we take prayer requests from them. And we actually have an altar call at the end of the message that we give, and we get a huge response, from that, and we get to, as best we can, follow up. Because it's not unusual to have, when you've got a room with 500 young men and women in there, it's not uncommon to have 70 or 80 of them flood down to the front, to want you to pray with them or to receive Christ. So it's a very interesting ministry. And just to see God work, is extremely exciting, and it's not uncommon for us to have, like I said, 12 to 1,500 Marines show up, within that time frame. And Crew military nationwide typically sees as a ministry over 160,000 salvation decisions per year.
Wow.
Is what we're averaging, and last year we exceeded 160,000 salvation decisions.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I think just as we said before, just this whole ministry you don't even realize is there and just prime for just getting out there and reaching to the heart of people. Like you said, some young kids, a lot of them are kids, right, that are coming in our way for the first time, and just a different experience. So just a really cool opportunity. And I'm glad we kind of got together on this and were able to just learn more about it. I didn't really know anything about it prior to our conversations, so it's really neat. But as we kind of move forward, what are some needs that you see, and how can maybe the body of grace help with Crew or help you moving forward?
Okay. First of all, prayer is extremely important for us because there's a lot of moving pieces. We have to be able to communicate exceptionally well with the military leadership. Chaplains typically change over about every 2 years, and chaplains, a lot of times they'll have different beliefs. It's possible for a chaplain to believe something totally different, than what we do. and then it's possible for us to get a chaplain that believes right the same way we do. And so the chaplains that we have in position, you know, in the places that we're trying to serve are extremely important. And we need to pray that God sends, you know, the chaplains that are willing to allow us to work with them, you know, to bring ministry on the base and to be able to partner with them, you know, to meet these young men and women where they where they need to be met, you know, spiritually.
Yeah.
So that's a very important part of what we do. Also, volunteers, you know, we
So
can never.
yeah. So on that point, do you have to have like any previous military experience to be involved?
No. You just have to have a willing heart to serve God. Obviously, most of the ministry that we do is over in the Jacksonville area, you know, and we usually try to schedule our volunteers one Sunday, you know, per month, so that we don't overwhelm anybody. But volunteers, people that are spiritually mature enough to maybe do a small group Bible study.
Yeah.
That's extremely important because a lot of times we can get these young men and women together. We need people that are spiritually mature enough to maybe do couples counseling, you know, for some of these young couples, you know, that are facing, you know, some different stresses than what just the normal young couple may face,
absolutely.
you know, being in the military within itself. A lot of times these young men and women, they're recently married, they're away from everybody that they know, family members are gone, you know, friends are gone, and they're put into a place where they don't know anybody. And sometimes even when they get saved, there's isolation, you know, and they have to try to find connections,
Right.
you know, and sometimes it's not the right connections that they find. So we want to try to put in front of them everything that we possibly can to help them stay faithful to Christ.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your ministry with us, sharing crew, kind of explaining what we're doing. I think there's really cool opportunity, you know, for Grace to be able to connect up. So thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Sure.
All right.